Hello and welcome to another question and answer show here on Watch It Played. My name is Matthew and together with a bunch of your help, let's endeavour to answer all of the internet's burning board game questions. Our first question this month is, how many games do you own that you could teach and play without looking at the rulebook? Ooh, I consider myself a board game professional. I know that isn't what others have been saying. That feels like something I should be able to do. Something that should just be natural. But I just go, I can play that game. Yeah, I love that game. I played it many times. But there's a confidence that comes with saying, and I don't need the rulebook at all. I've had a look around my room here at the games that I own, and I have come up with a short list. I'm going to go with probably about 15, maybe. That's not a lot. You know, even like Carcassonne, you know, a game I played many times and I feel like I know all the rules to. Would I say I don't need to look at the rule book? I just need to make sure this one thing, you know, and sometimes you add a house rule in and sometimes is that part of the rule book and do we actually, is that allowed, or how does this happen, how many points is it? I want to say more than that though. I mean, Lost Cities I'm playing without the rule book. I don't need the rule book for Lost Cities. Seven Wonders Duel I do not need the rule book for. There's a lot of games where all the rules are on the cards. That's certainly true. But like the Castles of Burgundy I could probably teach and play. There's Chin just here I could definitely play. But the other question I had for myself when I was posed this and saw this, and people really taking this very seriously, is why? Why? It is an interesting thought experiment. How many games do you really know so well? And what type of games are they, right? Does it say anything about the game itself that once learned you can just spend your time on mastering the game? I don't know if it really is the biggest badge of honor that it needs to be. Something I could definitely do is there's probably hundreds of games that I could reread the rule book once and then teach that game perfectly. I do think that is a skill that I have, and I think a lot of us board gamers have that, where I can just read through something, it's 12 pages, and for the next 24 hours, that is in my mind. That's probably the extent of it, because after it's been played, gone again, completely just vanished. But I have got so many games that are like that. I mean, there is a great, wonderful ease to thinking, I could just whack a game out and just play it. And I am so impressed when I see people do that. They go, I'll teach this, and they just don't need anything. They just know the rules. You ask them a question, they got it. How many games do you think that you own, do you think you could just whack off the shelf, play? Everyone's got questions, no one's ever played before. You got the answers. You don't need the rule book. The next question, I think it might be slightly controversial. It's, have you seen the price of Kickstarter lately? It just made me chuckle. Crowdfunding games have got more expensive, haven't they? And it's not necessarily been the most incremental, but it has in a way. Crowdfunding's been with us for over 10 years now, maybe. Maybe it's the fact that the big crowdfunded games that we see and are promoted, and maybe you know, I'm going to buy an ad, going to literally, I mean, I was on YouTube the other day and I got just an advert, which I was in for a crowdfunding thing. I was never asked. I'll say that much. I was like, what's happening here? I'm in this advert. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. And it was for, you know, crowdfunding, and they've got the money to make these projects. And often they've got these big backings behind them, like they're doing a video game. So EA is behind them or Disney is behind them, right? So there's a lot of money coming in there. And on the flip side, they need to make a bunch of money. And you see, maybe those big Kickstarters are just the ones we hear about more. There's so much more promotion for those. Has the average price of all Kickstarter projects, let's just use Kickstarter as an example, there's GameFound and BackerKit and others, you know, has the average cost of all of the games gone up, other than out of line and out of sync with inflation in general? I don't know if that's maybe the case. I still see lots of games and I go, oh, that's a really good game. And the price was entirely reasonable to me. One that comes to mind, and they haven't sponsored anything, that was just one that I'm thinking about, was the Moon Rollers game. We actually did do a playthrough of Moon Rollers on the channel, on our Twitch channel. And I went over to Kickstarter and went, oh, this is $30. That sounds about right. That sounds fair. Obviously there's shipping. Let's not even consider shipping on Kickstarters because it's just never a fun experience. There are lots of projects where the price is kind of just normal, acceptable, reasonable, sometimes a good deal. But then you get those massive projects and the prices do seem to be going higher and higher and higher. And my only thing to say to that is, if people keep on buying them, the companies are going to keep on making them. You can't say that the price is too high if they keep on selling. You can only say that that game was not being sold to you. That's the way I look at it. You know, I see a big Kickstarter. Maybe it's a game I'm really interested in. And I go, oh, this game isn't for me. I want to play the game. I want to own the game. But this game is not being marketed to me and people like me. This is being marketed to people with much more money. And there seems to be enough of those people in the hobby to justify them making that. And you go, well, they've sold 3,000 copies of this game at $400, but they weren't going to sell one to me. That's just not going to happen. I think there are a lot of Kickstarters that I've just been priced out of. And yeah, I could probably buy it, but I can't justify buying it. Really, I think a lot of what it comes down to is people in the hobby taking onus for their own actions and taking a bit of responsibility upon themselves. If you really believe the price of these things has gone up and up and up too much, then hopefully enough people will just not purchase it. That has happened. I've seen it happen where people have gone, no. I remember Magic the Gathering's 30-year anniversary where they did these exclusive booster packs. And they were like £1,000, like $1,000 or something stupid. And the product failed. It's possible for the will of the people to work out in those regards. To give a message to people saying, great game, this is too much money. Because often those companies have other options. They've got a game. They think we need to make this Kickstarter-y. And what does that mean, Kickstarter-y? I feel like we all think of, it needs deluxe components. It needs miniatures, even if the game doesn't need miniatures. It needs this, it needs this, it needs exclusives, it needs this. And all of that is to generate buzz, to generate people excitement, for people to be talking about it. And all of those things incur a cost. We are driving this engine because we've asked for this. And the companies are often just providing what we've asked for. They want minis, they want this perfect insert, they want this. Well, the price is going to go up. I feel sometimes the price of Kickstarters is just ludicrous on its face. But sometimes the price of Kickstarters is like, well, we need to make this deluxe because we want to stand out in the crowd so that people back it in general. But undoubtedly, the price of Kickstarter has increased, I think. It's certainly in a lot of these projects at a faster rate than the price of games. What do we do about it? Not back the games? Stand up and say, I'm not getting this, and then see the Kickstarter succeed anyway without you? It's difficult, but I think we have developed, as a whole, we've developed a community that gets away with it, maybe the wrong way to put it, but certainly expects these projects to be all out. I think what we can do with these projects is just say, I'm going to sit this one out and wait for retail or wait for it to be sold on the second-hand market. But you have to also accept that these companies are trying to make something, and I just don't think that a lot of publishers are out there trying to rip everyone off. They're out there trying to make a profit, obviously. But I think they want to provide a good quality product for a price that makes it possible for them to make it, and that comes with a big cost sometimes. And the final question I have this month is, how have games changed in the last 10 years? Like I said, 10 years is pretty much as long as I've been properly in the hobby industry. And we've just mentioned one big change, the way games have changed. It's that crowdfunding is such a hugely more important part of the culture of board games. But I think in general, there are a few things that I've noticed personally about how games themselves have changed in the last 10 years. First of all, there are way more of them. There's just more games. Every year seems to be a new record set, pandemics, aside. Every year there seems to be a new record set on how many games were at Essen, how many games were released at Gen Con, how many games were added to Board Game Geek. More and more and more games. Is that good? Is that bad? Does it provide us a breadth of different things and themes? Does it provide us with way too much oversaturation? I don't know. But definitely there's more games. And I would also say that on average, I've noticed in the last 10 years, production values have gone up. Artwork in games has become much more of a taboo to just not do a good job on. The production value of the pieces, the cards, and of course, again, not in every game, nothing is going to be a blanket rule for everything because there's thousands of games. But I feel like nowadays, you buy board games, the production of it's going to be better than 10 years ago on average. Two things I've noticed about the space that board games inhabit is that you're able to play those games online. That's something that's really always been around, but over the last 10 years, the amount of places you can play these games online is just blown up. And the amount of games on those places like Board Game Arena and Sovereignty, things like that, which I think is fantastic. And another thing I've noticed in the last 10 years, I'm sure you have too, is that the game that you want to buy, that game you're thinking about, there's a lot more content on that game. There's so many more people making board game content than 10 years ago. I think that's a good thing for the hobby because it means that you've got lots of extra different viewpoints about a game. You know, you're going to spend 50 quid on a game. It's nice to have more than one person's opinion on the game now. You can find 10 people's opinions on the game. And we've been through all the phases and trends. We've had the micro game trend. We had the legacy game. I mean, the first legacy game came out in 2011, but you know, over the last 10 years, really, we've had, well, that was Risk Legacy, wasn't it? Over the last 10 years, we've had more legacy games come out. We've been through zombies. We've made our way through anthropomorphic animals. We're now in I think, the trick-taking revival, which I maintain I was the one who called that first. I refuse to accept anyone else saw that coming before me. Anyway, that's not what this is about. But how have the actual games themselves changed? Not a lot. On average, I would argue that games are getting better. I think the average game today is probably better than the average game 10 years ago. And the reason most people can't realise that is because the games that we think of from 10 years ago are not the average games. They're the ones that stood out and stood the test of time. You go, oh no, this game came out this year, and this game, they're all amazing. It's like, yeah, they were the 10 top games of that year. But you don't remember all the average games. You can't even picture them in your mind. But I think when it really comes down to it, if you were to take some great games from 10 years ago, some great games from today, how have games changed? They haven't really. There's a few extra things. But when was the last time deck building got invented again? You know, we have these monumental shifts in an idea, but I can't think of much other than deck building that has been a fundamental benchmark mechanism in a game that's really been invented in the last 10 years. So any game that came out now probably could have come out 10 years ago. I mean, I guess Keyforge was something that was a big change, like using AI, using procedurally generated cards and stuff like that. What do you think? Do you think games really have fundamentally changed in the last 10 years? Do you think the games that come out now are just so far and above better than they used to be? Or do you think games are so much worse now? And maybe I'm just thinking about the Euro board game space. Maybe in Ameritrash type of games, there really has been some great innovation. In war games, there's really been fantastic innovation. I do think one thing that has happened that has been a change is the amount of games that are trying to introduce you to things. Like war games that try to help you get your foot in the door so that you can start playing heavier and heavier. The barrier to entry to some of these really big, heavy games, those have been broken down a bit by having these intermediate steps. Maybe that's a great thing that's happened in the last 10 years, and I'd argue it is. Let me know, what do you think? To this and all the questions that have been posed in this episode, I'd love to hear everything that you have to say about it, and I'll see you in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you're having a great month, and until next month, I'll see you then. Bye.